We are circling back to Proverbs 17, verse 14, which in layman's terms says, starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam, so drop the matter before dispute breaks out. Now, Proverbs are to be applied with wisdom. You need to broach difficult subjects, but you need to do so tactfully. You need to do so after prayer. You need to do so with love and with understanding, because it's assumed that you are broaching a dispute between brethren, first of all, because light has no place with darkness. So we can't take this proverb to say, well, my unbelieving partner and I are in an argument. Well, it's obvious why you're in an argument. You shouldn't be together. Light has no place with darkness. And just an example, because we need to be wise of how we apply the Proverbs, of how we apply the word in general. But as the Lord has been really clear lately about reminding us what the word says about who not to associate with and so forth, we need to be mindful. So we're assuming that this is brethren, this is a believer. And it is wise to approach the believer directly. Now, directly doesn't have to mean, with anger or with hate. It shouldn't be with anger or hate. We don't want to approach someone in anger and risk sinning in that anger. Make sure you cast all your cares upon the Lord. You pray on the situation, and then He will create a safe space and give you the words to approach someone, whoever that is, family, friends, partners, with love and to get over an issue. Because here we see starting a fight is like breaking a dam. So once that dam breaks, you can't go back. Know that, the state of however the relationship was, whatever the relationship is, but that state, you can't go back once you start some sort of dispute with someone. There's a difference between a conversation and a quarrel. A quarrel is where we're starting to get argumentative here. And granted, tempers do flare when there's big issues at hand, which is why prayer before these discussions is so important. But you have to be mindful about many things when you're starting this kind of difficult conversation with someone that may start to get argumentative. You can't go back to where the relationship was once that argument happens. When a dam breaks, water's everywhere. And it kind of makes the way for it to start happening more and more. Once you allow your tempers to flare once, then it's like the dam is broken to allow those kind of reckless emotions into the relationship, which can be pretty dangerous to the relationship. Here, so it says, so drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. So drop the matter, show grace to one another. And again, this is assuming that this is brethren to whom we show grace, because, and I say that specifically because, the Lord shows us grace because we are repentant. We are repentant. If we were to choose our sin over Him, we should not expect the Lord to give us grace, while we're still sinning against Him. That doesn't even make sense. So likewise, if back to the example of the believer and the unbeliever, you shouldn't continue to show grace to someone that is essentially not part of the family, essentially that is a non-believer, and you keep getting into fights with them. It's unwise to keep showing grace, because you shouldn't be in that relationship anyway. That doesn't mean, attack them or do anything awful. It means you shouldn't be associating with them. So please use the Proverbs wisely, use the whole word wisely. But considering that this is brethren, yes, you should show grace. Sometimes you have to talk about things. Sometimes things need to be talked about. But all things should be prayed on first, because I have found that sometimes you pray on something and the Lord will kind of like take that raw emotion away, and then suddenly the prayer's over and you feel better, and you didn't even have to get into some big discussion. You didn't have to talk about it with the person, because it was really just your emotions that needed tending to. And the best one to tend to your emotions is not people, but the Lord. It's so wise that we should show and give our best selves to those that we love. The Lord is the one who tends to our emotions. So it's always wise to pray before these things. And just remember also, once you break that dam, now the water's everywhere, and you and this person are standing in water. So even if you decide, what, let's make up and da-da-da, you know what I mean? And now we're family again, we're friends again, and you want to go forward, that's wonderful. However, the water is still there. Effort still is now required in order to kind of clean that relationship up, to work past this, because when tempers are flaring, things are said, attitudes, old things are coming up, yada, yada, yada. So just remember to be mindful in difficult situations, especially when it starts to get argumentative. It's always wise to, if you can, pray together. It's the best thing, but always pray before difficult discussions so that you don't get to that place where the dam breaks and everything comes flooding out. And just a last bit, broach things that need to be talked about, pray on them first. And if kind of that feeling is still there, like, no, we got to talk about this, do so timely. Don't wait for days and weeks and even months, because then one day you bring up the issue when time has passed and you're like, yeah, and this, and it's like, that's not really fair to the other person, because that time is past now. There was an opportunity to broach it, and we have to seize these opportunities to talk about tough issues. Sometimes the Lord will allow, these tough situations in relationships in order that we could get closer together by working through them together. So be mindful, use wisdom, because sometimes these things come up and they are, in order to take apart. Disputes come in order to take apart. Perhaps, you've had a friend for too long that's a non-believer, and the Lord allows a dispute to come between you two, and it doesn't seem like we can't go forward. No, you shouldn't show grace there. You shouldn't continue on or sweep it under the rug or keep trying, because certain relationships we're just not supposed to be in. But for those that's not the case, be mindful, drop issues when you can, show grace, and always pray before difficult discussions.